Y'all, welcome to another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Man, y'all, today is a special episode, a real special episode, because we got the mental health homegirl here, y'all. But it got a little deeper than that, because that's my sister, and I'm so excited that we finally get the link and just vibe right now, y'all, on these waves. But before we get too into the episode, with our mental health homegirl, with Beyond the White Couch. Here we go. Y'all already know what time it is. Let's dive into this episode, baby. Vibe with me, y'all. Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Y'all, it's Ciera. Man, I love you, girl. What's up?
I love you too, man. I made it.
You did.
I made it.
You did.
I made it to the vibes.
Hey, we in here. But first of all, I already know who you are, and I already love you. But go ahead and introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, so I am Ciera Young. I am a licensed professional counselor associate, but I don't like all the formal things, so you can call me a mental health homegirl. I run a private practice called Recycle Energy, but I focus on Beyond the White Couch, which is a non-traditional approach to mental health, letting people know that it's not all about just coming and lay on the couch and talking, but navigating and having those conversations outside of the therapy space.
Yo, let's just get straight into it. Let's hit the couch right now. So what have you seen has been like your biggest eye-opening or awakening experience since doing the Beyond the White Couch?
Definitely people's misconception of mental health therapy, all the things that, relates to that experience, because a lot of times, especially in the Black community, people have this idea that you have to be crazy or something has to be wrong, but we all deal with mental health on a day-to-day basis. We all experience stress. Some people experience burnout. And so kind of redefining what that looks like has been really dope to open people's eyes to what mental health looks like outside of a traditional space.
I absolutely love it because people talk about it. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to really sit down and peel back the layers and really connect to yourself and become aware of those deep areas in your life where it's just like, no, this was real for you. And I think it's so easy for someone to take someone else's situation and think of it as lightweight. And then like for that actual person, it's heavy, it's dark, and you don't even know how to get through it. And it's so easy to say, oh, well, if it was me, I could just get over it. Oh, if it was me, I could just push through it. And that's such I don't know the right words, and I don't want to be politically incorrect, but I think I call BS on it. And I call BS on it because a lot of times with mental health, you can't see it. So you don't know what's real, and you don't know what that impact is doing. And you also don't know how deep that issue runs to that person's identity, let alone how they're able to even exist in a day. And I think it's like a big thing. How did you even get into a place where you say, you know what, mental health is that's my passion, and I know that work needs to be done, and I have my own unique way of showing up in this space, and I want to do it? What got you to that point?
Yeah, so I have had my own personal mental health struggles as well. Growing up, I was a very emotional kid, and I felt intensely. And I remember being suicidal as an adolescent, and nobody knew how to support me or how to help me. And I remember carrying that even through college and, getting a DUI when I was in college. And somebody told me, you're using alcohol to cope. And I was like, what? Me? And not realizing, drinking to the point where you black out, that's not normal, right? That's not normal. And so I remember my first encounter with a therapist on campus, and it was just a bad experience. The vibes was not there. And it just felt super like walking into a room, like feeling judged and all of that. And after I had my girls and went back to therapy for the second time, I remember feeling so welcomed and inviting and not judged. And it was, she really helped me start to uproot some of those things. And my first therapist was a white woman, and no, like it was good vibes. But when I got with a Black woman, it changed the game for me because I felt like I no longer had to perform. And so I remember being like, you know what, I need to be able to show up in spaces that I can just be myself and offer that to whoever walks into the room, because if I operate like that, they're more likely to operate like that too.
I love it, and I'm glad that you touched on that. I too had a traumatic experience at college as well, and I'm gonna give you your props on the fact that knowing that you were having an issue, that you at least tried therapy on campus, and I'm glad they had those services. Because once I was sexually assaulted on campus, I went to the health clinic and they did everything they needed to do, but it was also around sexual assault month time, and they were like, well, do you want to go and talk to somebody about it, or and I was just kind of like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody about it. Like, one, I was ashamed that it even happened. Two, I was mad that I couldn't do anything about it. Like, I hate that it even like it happened. So why would I want to go and talk about it? What am I going to say to these people? Like, I just came to you to make sure I'm good and I'm clean, and none of that extra stuff was happening. But it was like I wasn't even ready to talk about it, and for you to say, right, like, oh, assault, like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, and it's just kind of like, okay, and well, I first have to be okay with this, and I'm not okay yet. And then as well, like you were talking about it before, as a child, if we're not, what's the word? If we're not accustomed to having spaces where you're able to just show up and be honest with how you're feeling without being ashamed, without being judged, without feeling like you did something wrong to even have this situation to even occur. That wasn't normal. That wasn't the average thing for me, or the kind of where I grew up. I didn't have other friends that said, hey, my family is going through issues, so I'm seeing a therapist and I'm able to learn this. Like, the self-awareness wasn't there. The connection and being open with your feelings, it wasn't there. But to be able to know that you knew you were highly emotional as a child, to be able to say, okay, well, I'll try therapy, feel like the therapy wasn't for you, but to give it another try again and then actually find that representation and that vibe that you needed. I'm so grateful that you didn't stop at that bad experience and never go back. I think too many of us don't have the courage to go meet our true selves. And I think that's what therapy really is like going to meet your true self. And then once you meet that true self, figure out how to love that person, how to give that person grace, and how to figure out how to navigate through life now that you really know who you are. And I think that's a big piece. And how do you feel like as the mental health homegirl? Because we're not gonna, use the political terms, but as the mental health homegirl, how does it feel being able to really, introduce people to their real self?
That's the most beautiful part. That's the most beautiful part, because a lot of times people really don't understand how much of themselves that they suppress to accommodate and make everybody else comfortable. I used to feel, even personally, like being emotional was a sign of weakness, or not being super social made me mean. And it was like, no, that's just who I am. Because once you get to know me, because I'm very big on building relationships, once you get to know me, it's a vibe over here. I'm gonna cut up. We're gonna have a good time, right? But that requires me to feel safe, right? Because I grew up not feeling safe. And so one of the things that I preach to my clients all the time is, do you know what it's like to feel emotional safety? And most people don't. And so in turn, you can't be vulnerable. You can't take the mask off. You can't understand what it's like to operate in authentic spaces because you don't feel safe to do that. People, you brought up the idea of, being self-aware. So many people don't know what self-awareness even looks like. To be able to understand, you got to tap into this. You got to, don't think that that's just, oh, how I am. No, it's a reason. There's a root cause, but we don't explore that and we don't try to understand that. And so getting people in the room with me to be able to help them do that, it's just a beautiful process to witness and be a part of.
I got you. I feel you on that. And it's a few things that you said that I want to come back to. First thing, what you just said, explore. So many times people see or hear therapy and they think, oh, I got to go fix myself because something is wrong. When in actuality, therapy is nothing but exploration. Let's explore where you are right now. How did you get here? Where do you really want to be? Where do you want to go? Like that's a big thing. Stop thinking that someone is trying to fix you. Stop thinking that someone's saying something's wrong with you. Let's go explore what you've experienced in life, the good and the bad, and really figure out who you are, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, to really get a better sense of where you want your life to go, what it is that you aspire to. So I love that you hit on that with the exploration. Take it back a little bit more. When we talked about it, I thought about people pleasing. So yesterday I was on like this webinar and I realized as a child, I was a people pleaser. I wanted my family to be able to be happy with everything that I was doing. And if they needed me to do something, I wanted to make sure I'm there, because if I wasn't there, I would feel bad. There was this sense of guilt, of not doing and being who they wanted me to be, or do the things that they wanted me to do, whatever role or capacity that was. A lot of the times it was good for me because it got me into leadership roles. It got me into the community. It got me into really being able to be aware of loving other people and service. And clearly, service is what we do. But when you think about people pleasing, you have to think, why? Why be a people pleaser? And when you're a people pleaser, you please people first before you put yourself first and make sure that you're happy with what it is that you're doing. And it was this exercise that we had to do yesterday on this mindset Zoom. And I'm so glad because it was fresh, because yesterday it might have been the day how you felt, because you were saying today, like, yo, I'm here. I'm in the studio. I made it. I made it. All I can say is I made it to catch these vibes. And I'm happy that you did. And that was me yesterday with some like, family things that I was learning, and this feeling, you ever feel sometimes powerless, like all of these situations are happening and you feel somewhat powerless and you forget to think about the power that you do have. And we'll come back to that because we know how that goes into empowerment. But it was like, what's your past story? What are some things that you believed about yourself that is no longer true? And it was the people pleasing that came about, which you just talked about. It was also thinking like, entrepreneurship wasn't for me. Like, I was one of those people, let me go to work. Let me work my hours so I can get that check, so it's guaranteed money. That entrepreneurship, you don't know if you're going to have good months, bad months. I don't really want to play with it. It sounds risky, past story. Now that you know that entrepreneurship is the only way that you can be you and get everything that you can without a cap. Like, it's different. That's the past, right? And then even when it came to relationships, will I ever be in a healthy relationship? Will I have a relationship, or will I be by myself? That's a past story. And I think there's so many people that have past stories that they now see as their identity, not realizing it's just a story that they tell themselves. What do you believe has been a story that you told yourself that took you like some real time to overcome, to be able to be more vibrant and to live and walk in the true light that you really are?
That's deep, Joe. That's deep. I think the biggest one is that I was too independent. I was raised by a single mom. And so I saw what that was like. And I saw no excuses being made. And I saw what that made me think and feel. And to know, if I didn't have that mindset, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I wouldn't be here. And so I had to move past the idea that being an independent woman was not lovable or liked, or that I couldn't speak my mind or say how I felt or show my emotions, because people would use that against me, because now that's the very thing that pays me in all capacities. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that anybody can use as a weapon against me. And so I would say that's definitely a story that I had to kind of deconstruct and rebuild in a different way to understand the power of that. Because I always say owning your story is like it's the biggest and most valuable thing that you can do, because once you're able to own it, nobody can use it against you. Nobody can go against what you truly believe for yourself. And when I got to that place, that put me in a position of power for myself.
I'm glad that you got to that power. And I'm so glad that you went to that single mother. I was raised by a single mother, and we're not looking for excuses. And it's this thing about being raised by a single mother and seeing a strong woman do whatever it takes to raise her family, to protect her family, to provide for her family, long hours, whatever it was this sense of respect that you just saw in the hustle and the ability to provide. Because I too was raised by a single mother, and I think it's that special vision, because girls look at their moms in a totally different light than boys do. Totally different light. My relationship with my mom is totally different than the relationship she had with her sons. Like totally different. But I can also see how them having their father in their life we got two different drives set up, like two totally different drives. How I operate and get through life is totally different than how my brothers operate and get through life. And I think how you were raised and who showed up in your life and what you were able to see and get out of those people, it matters, like it truly matters on how things go. But I love that you were able to reconstruct and rebuild that story to show power. It's not that there's no excuses and you just got to do whatever it takes. No, there's a special power and passion that goes beyond just seeing somebody hustle all day and grind. That could be emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausting. But if you're not giving yourself the opportunity as a mother to make yourself a number one priority, you're going to always feel drained, and that you're pouring into someone and other things that you're never going to get what you need for yourself. And at that point, you're going to experience that burnout. You're going to experience that breakdown that typically a lot of mothers who got a lot to carry feel. Give a little, just drop a little love vibe for our mothers right now, because I feel like they need it. Those single mothers, multiple kids, like just give them a little mental health homegirl motivation, encouragement real quick, and then we'll keep this thing going.
Yeah, single motherhood does not define you. It doesn't define where you can go. It doesn't define how, your kids see you. It becomes a part of who you are, but it doesn't become who you are. And when you embrace that and you shift your mindset from thinking I'm a mom first to I'm a woman first, it changes everything. Because when you're able to pour into yourself and give yourself the love that you need, and you think about yourself first and don't consider your kids automatically first, everything that you do that benefits you automatically benefits your kids. Automatically. Because if you're operating at 100%, they get 100%. If you operating at 50, they get 50. Sometimes less, right? Because you have to think about the what the impacts of what 50% looks like. So just understand that where you are in your motherhood journey, it's a journey, not a destination. You can't compare yourself to what this person doing and that person doing. Just understand your best is good enough. And if you need to do better, find better within yourself first.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope all the moms caught all of that goodness already. So thank you, mental health homegirl with the mom vibe, real quick in the middle of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives. So you said something, and it's something I really want to get out of it with you. So with endometriosis and polycystic ovary syndrome and fibroids, a lot of times women with these chronic health issues, they get very depressed, mentally and emotionally drained, because they feel as though their body is going against them. They're feeling like their body isn't working with them. They're feeling defeated about potentially not being able to have kids, or just not be able to get through life vibrantly, being in pain, being frustrated. What are some tips for anyone, but specifically those trying to get through this journey of strength with PCOS and endometriosis? What are some simple mindset shift strategies that people can use to kind of come from a place of discouragement and feeling powerless to getting a little bit more in a pivot to kind of be a little bit more grateful, a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more optimistic, tap into a little bit more resilience? What are some mindset shifts
Yeah.
strategies that people can consider?
The big one is not looking at the end goal, like, right, trying to control, I can't fix this. How do I change this? Right? Because then you have to you're looking at it from a bigger lens that makes you feel defeated, right? It makes you feel like you have to attack it from so many different angles. I got to go to doctors. I got to change how I eat, and you start doing all of these things at one time. But when you really reel into, okay, what can I do in this moment? What can I truly change in this moment? It helps you become more present. Presence Presence is the greatest gift that you can give yourself because it eliminates that desire to control the outcomes, some of which we don't have any power over, right? And when you start to think off in the future, tomorrow doesn't exist yet. Today does, though, right? We don't know what tomorrow's gonna look like. You think that tomorrow is going, you're gonna wake up, you think tomorrow's gonna be here, but you have no idea what that's going to present. But in this moment, you do know that in this moment, I have the ability to control what's happening to me right now. And so just being able to stop focusing on the big picture and looking at the right now allows you to feel more empowered with what's happening in the immediate future versus what's off in the distance. That's the biggest um shift, I would say. But also affirming yourself that permanence in your diagnosis can always change, right? Because you have the ability to do what you can control, to help, to research, to gain knowledge that most people don't take the time to do. Even with you, I see you all the time researching and finding, like, educating me on stuff. And I'd be like, man, how did you learn that? But it takes you to be invested in your own, what you want to change within yourself in order for you to create the change that you want to see. That's power, that's control. But it doesn't require you to be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be like this forever, or oh my god, it's always gonna seem so impossible, or oh my gosh, nothing is never going to change. Because the smaller changes that you do make create impact over time.
I love it. Thank you. I do. I do. And I think a lot of times people take a diagnosis and they make it want to be a part of their identity. And it's like, no, it's just
No.
information. It's just giving you more information about yourself. What are you going to do now with this new information? How are you going to be empowered to push through and still create what it is that you say you want for yourself? Taking it, like you
Right.
said, one day at a time. So I just want to run it back one more time. You want to focus on the right now moment. Take yourself out of a state of anxiety, thinking ahead that you haven't even experienced yet, or thinking behind how all this experiences that you have had before are going to always be what it is, but just being present in the moment. And then two, making small changes that eventually start changing the trajectory of your life. If you just
Right.
continue to believe and be intentional about being intentional with those changes that you're making.
Yeah.
So I
Intentional is
love that.
a huge word. That's a huge word.
It is. And too many times, sometimes people throw it out there, but they're really not intentional about what it is that they're saying. They just like the concept of being intentional or saying intention. And I think when you start showing up in spaces, whether it's going to an event, whether it's what I'm going to do when I meet this person or have this conversation, you should already be thinking, what intentions do I have when meeting with this person? What do I want to get out of this? What do I want to pour in? How do I make this work for me? How do I make this work for my business? How do I build a relationship? Like, intentionality is really showing up with purpose to a place where you're not wasting your time or anyone else's time, and that you're really appreciating the fact that you're still here and you want to be valuable with the things that are around you, because you're valuable too. And I think you talked
Right.
about that before. Like, people gonna stop wasting my time. Like, they just that it's just time out for wasting time. And I think that's something that people can't get back, and
Right.
you don't want to play with that. And so I think that is a big thing. Another thing that I learned from you, and it was hard. It was such a hard thing, but it was writing a letter. And I had never sat down and wrote a letter to someone who had passed away. And it was such a huge grief practice that I had never tried before, and it was therapeutic. But I mean, man, was it hard to really just get it out there. But it felt good after I did it, and I'm glad you was like, but it felt good, didn't it, Joe? It did. I mean, a few tissues and stuff later, and but some droplets on my plate. But that's a big thing for people as well that struggle with polycystic ovarian syndrome. Is a lot of miscarriages and not being able to see babies full term or be able to even get to where it is that they want when it comes to that. What are some other ways, or you can just talk about one that writing that letter practice. What are some ways to kind of handle grief for people who really want to not go to, like you said, the bottle, and when you don't even realize that you're going to the bottle for it? What are some healthy ways to kind of navigate through grief? Because that's real. And I don't think we talk enough about how to navigate grief as adults, let alone supporting children and youth to process and handle grief. Can you hit on that for me a little bit?
Grief is it's a lot. Okay, it's a lot. But I think the first thing that you have to do is surrender to your emotions. A lot of times when you experience grief, you go on this roller coaster of emotions. And again, going back to, I have to control this. Like, I have to be in control. But surrendering to your emotions allows you to acknowledge that the grief is real. If you don't acknowledge that the grief is real, you can't even begin to process whatever you feel or how you're feeling or tap in. The default would be to suppress, but that's damaging. That's harmful. It doesn't allow you to experience what you need to in order to move through the journey of grief. So I would say that's the first one. The second one, I'm definitely going to say write the letter, because it's something that, I share with you, but it's something that I do and I share with my clients all the time, because a lot of times we feel disconnected from people when they pass away. And when you start to experience that, it makes you feel like, well, I'm going to forget about them, or they're no longer here. And so I can't experience what it's like to be connected with them. But when you write, energy doesn't die, right? Energy doesn't die. And even though you may not be able to hear a response from them, something comes from them that helps you know that it's cool, it's okay, I'm here with you, right? You have to just believe that and trust that process. And again, you're acknowledging those emotions. Another thing that I say is find a way to honor them. What does that look like? Our beach walk was beach experience was a beautiful thing. But even in my office, I have a space that's created just, for two people who are dear to my heart. And that alone creates, like, every day I see you, every day I know that I think about you. And so it makes me, again, feel connected to that person. And then the last thing I would say is talk to people. Communicate, tell people how you feel, and don't be afraid for people to judge where you are on your journey, right? Because what is going to change how grief is viewed and how people are allowed to process it is if we do more of talking about it. Most people allow their grief because it's like, well, they're grieving in their own way and they're grieving in their own way. But it's like, at some point with somebody, you're grieving in some kind of similar way, regardless if the same or not. And so when you start to communicate and you create dialogue, now I can share what's worked for me. You can share what's working for you. Now we're creating community about grief, which is something that is so untapped.
I agree. And I hate it. And I don't even know. Maybe because it takes a special person to create that safe space for people to really truly show up to navigate grief. And maybe that's what we haven't seen. We haven't seen enough talented, positive, down to earth people create these spaces for us to truly navigate grief in the most healthiest way. And I just know I did that grammatically incorrect with the most in the healthiest way. I caught myself. Come for me if you like. It's cool. But even when it comes to like counseling in schools, like even when it comes to like showing up for kids, they can only do but so much because there's so many other things they have to do. Like I can only imagine if teachers like myself, counselors at schools, had the opportunity to really sit and build relationships more than we had to create lesson plans and implement strategies for someone to learn a standard than it was for them to learn themselves. I just wish we had more time to truly allow people to connect with themselves. So then that way they can confidently show up when things are uncomfortable to still speak their truth, to still share their feelings. And what I love most is what you said was like energy doesn't die. And you're right. Like when you said that, I didn't realize it when I was writing it, but it was as if I was steadily talking to her as I was writing it. And it felt good because I felt like I hadn't got to talk to her in a long time. And it was because I never realized how I could have easily just took out a pen and paper or a pencil before and just talked to her. Like it took you telling me to do it before I even thought that it was something I could do. And I know some people are like people who like, writing and write like handwritten notes. But again, you're giving that to someone else that's still here. That can receive it and then give you a response and feedback to it. So I love that part. Like that hit. Go ahead. Come on with the energy over that. I'm like, okay, I see you. I like that. So thank you for that. And then just talking about writing that letter, I know a lot of people are getting into journals, and I think you got a journal, yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a journal, so you know the power of journaling. People who've never journaled before. And I tried to get my students into like writing or getting a journal, and then I give them a prompt. How do you allow your clients, or what are some ways that people can start journaling without having a prompt, not knowing where to really go? Like what would be some of the ways that they can start making journaling a part of their self-care routine that know nothing about journaling?
Right. Well, the biggest thing is understanding that journaling is just processing what you think out loud in some form, right? So you can write if that's what you do, or voice memos is a big thing now. So even just talking out loud, because you never know what you're going to do with that later. So that's also something. But when you think about journaling, think about, I'm going to exhale my thoughts. I'm exhaling my thoughts. And so if you're new to journaling, do a brain dump first, and do it like in the top, like in the beginning of the morning, right? So if you get up in the beginning of the morning and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to write down on this piece of paper, journaling is stupid. Journaling is stupid because da 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 da. What's going to happen is that thoughts are going to start being stimulated in your mind, and then it will lead to what you really need to say. A lot of times, our mental capacity is so consumed with things that don't matter. Okay, it's consumed with things that don't matter. And so before you can actually get to what you need to tell yourself, or what you need to exhale, what you need to write down, you got to get through all the BS that you kind of thinking about that has no relevance. And then you'll get to processing some of those emotions and feelings. And a lot of times what I tell my clients is that there's nothing wrong with journaling. There, you cannot be wrong because you think it. So if you say that it's wrong, oh, I shouldn't feel like this. Yes, you should. You have to validate you first before you seek validation from somebody else. So journaling is a part of, it's a form of self-validation.
I love it.
So there's no
I never
code. Yeah, it's no code. There's no structure. It doesn't have to be that. Now, journaling prompts are great and it's good to have, right? But it's not necessary, because once you kind of get through those thoughts that have no relevance, you start to bring up some of those things that you probably have suppressed, or thoughts that you think that nobody would care about, but you care about it, right? And so writing it down makes it real for you. It validates everything for you.
I like it. I feel like now that you broke it down that way and I can better understand journaling and the concept of it, it's like the prompts are guiding you on some type of exploratory journey that you chose to go on. So when you get a journal from someone, clearly you want to make this connection with yourself based on the theme that that person is planning to take you through, whether it's a health transformational journey, whether it's just getting to know yourself, whether it's something dealing with trauma. Those prompts are relevant to the exploration or the adventure you're trying to go on with your thoughts and with yourself. But if you just wanted to take on the practice of journaling and it's, it's just really writing how you feel. What are your thoughts? What do you want to validate? So I like that. Thank you.
Yeah,
I was
that
today
is
years old.
that did sound good.
Oh, it
That
did.
sounded real good. That came from here.
See, I mean, you got to come in here and catch them vibes, baby. It's just gonna flow. It's just gonna flow. So speaking of that, speaking of flow, let's go. Let's get into it. So first, thank you for being a part of the Empower Plates, Empower Lives healing community on Facebook. Like that's fairly new. I'm really excited about our March challenge. So I hope you're gonna tap in and participate in that. We playing bingo, and I'm really excited because we got the bingo card already ready. But it's gonna be different ways you gotta win. You know how we do with bingo. You gotta say how you about to do the same X straight across. We might do an F. We doing blackout probably last week. But I'm excited about it. But I feel like challenges is the way to really get people to be held accountable, but also to just embrace something new and for a short period of time, just so they can meet this new version of themselves, right? Speaking of a new version of yourself, take me through your health journey. Like where did it start? And then when did you start saying, you know what, I need to kind of start taking myself serious. I need to love myself a little bit more because life ain't a game. Take me through that, and you can start here and work your way back, or you can take it back and make your way here. You take me on this.
Yeah, I think the most pivotal part of my health journey has to deal with around COVID time, having a minor stroke and going into a hospital by yourself. Nobody could come in was one of the scariest things that I probably experienced, and it was stress induced, right? But I also have a history of high blood pressure in my family, diabetes in my family. My dad has had a heart attack and he not that old. And so those are, it's a lot of factors that come into that. So even in that experience, I didn't take it serious. I didn't make changes. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. It was kind of like, I hear you, but I don't hear you. And seeing my mom go through some what I would call traumatic things, my dad having his heart attack at a young age, still didn't click for me. I would say even going to the doctor, getting like, oh, you got high blood pressure, you're pre-diabetic, it still did not register that, Ciera, if you don't do something, what's going to happen? It didn't register. Sharnice and Dorothy was a point of, you have the opportunity to do something different. Either you're going to do it or you're not. And if you don't do it for yourself, do it for them, because they don't have an opportunity to do so. And so I think the biggest thing was getting my mental capacity together. So when I did my fast at the end of the year, detox from social media, I had to kind of like pray, and I had to be honest with myself. Like, what's happening? Like, why are you not taking this seriously? And why are you not making the changes that you know you need to make? Because if you continue this, you know what the potential outcome could be. And then starting at the beginning of the year, doing the Daniel fast, cutting out all, meat and only eating raw, all of that stuff, that made me mentally connect with, girl, you can do this. It's not that bad. You got it. And so now it goes back to what you're saying about being more intentional, paying attention to the labels, doing what I need to do, exercising and drinking my water and monitoring my sugar and all of that, and watching and not thinking that it has to be a fast process, similar to what we were talking about earlier, taking it day by day versus like, oh my gosh, I got to lose 50 pounds. No, Ciera, just make sure you eat healthy today. Drink more water today. Did you exercise? Did you walk? And being conscious of that on a day-to-day versus looking at it from a bigger scale, because I was overwhelmed with looking at the big picture, but looking at it from a day-to-day basis makes me feel like I'm in control.
And when
And
we
being
talked
more
about it earlier, it was really like
open-minded.
empowerment. Empowerment was a sense of
Yeah.
self control. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, but also being open to understanding, even for me, what triggered overeating and what triggers me
Mm.
wanting to make the bad decision. All of that, what I've learned, has been emotional for me, because although I know what to do to cope and process and all of that, sometimes I have to do what is readily available to me, what's quick, what's going to be, you know what I'm saying? But having to check myself to be like, no, all right, you don't need to turn to the Reese's today. You need to go grab you an apple and some peanut butter or whatever. So just being more intentional with making decisions that I know move me in a positive direction versus are counterproductive to my health.
I like it. And it sounds like it was really like a commitment to self first. It was like, you
Yeah.
know what? Let me do this for me. And I feel you with the Sharnice and Dorothy. Like it was one thing to kind of like be kind of dipping my toe in it, kind of being like, yeah, I need to take it serious. Yeah, I've had surgery. I got stage 4 endometriosis. Yeah, I was pescatarian. Let me, start making a few more changes. But when people younger than you that have kids and that you just expect to see so much more life from just kind of leave in a short amount of time, it's like you can't play with life no more. Like
Right.
it's a point where you're not invincible. And because you're not invincible, you got to start showing up and being visibly and vocal about what it is you need for you, your care, for your boundaries, for your love, for your treatment. But most importantly, what are you going to do for you? And I think it was a part of me that pushed it was like the last time that I was with Dorothy for homecoming, and she was like, "Well, Joe, a lot of stuff that you trying, because you said you had to keep an open mind. A lot of stuff that you trying, I never even heard of before. Because I like got Instacart to drop groceries off, and I was like making a few things for myself and let her mom try it. And then Bray had some milk, but they didn't have that kind of milk, so he had to get some of my plant-based milk. And her mom was like,
Right.
he ain't gonna know the difference, and he didn't. So like, y'all scared to get your kids off of the cow's milk. You can give them some plant-based milk. They'll make the adjustments. It's good. They're gonna suck it up too.
Right.
She was just like, you got to be more visible and show people what you're trying, because a lot of people where we from, we're so used to eating what we eating, we're not even considering other options of stuff that
Right.
we
That's
can
facts.
eat, and I
That's
just
facts.
wish that I was, yeah, and I just wish that I was on this journey and where I am today a whole lot sooner to see if it would have been able to, help a little bit more. But I take that passion with Mo, and so we always be intentional on our little challenges and stuff during the week to keep living, because like you said, energy never dies, right? So we
Yeah.
can be more intentional together when it comes to prioritizing our health and how we make better decisions for ourselves, because it eventually just says how we love ourselves.
Facts.
But I hate that we don't know enough to save ourselves, and that it takes so much energy to be heard. Like Ciera, you just said I had a mini stroke and people couldn't be around me and I was stuck in a hospital, and that still wasn't enough. Like I feel you, but I ain't
Yeah.
hearing you though. Like I'm still not
Yeah.
ready though. And it happens, and you got to be honest with it, because it really does happen, because people have to be ready for change. And if you're not really ready
Right.
for change, you're not going to stick it out for the change. You're just going to try something and you're going to get right back into old ways. But when you're committed, you're open and you're ready, you are optimistic about whatever the journey may bring
Right.
today, 30 days, 90 days. And that was something that I loved about you, is that you started to really just embrace the journey. You weren't thinking about all the different things you got to replace because you've been eating and living and moving this way for however long. You started to embrace creativity. And then you took that creativity, and not only did you do it for you, you're now starting to expose it to your children and actually have dialogue with them about what it is that they're eating. And I think that's the piece we need more of. It's not only now we're aware and we're changing and we're shaping our lives because we know that we need to do better, because we at this place where we're a little older, so health kind of
Right.
it sits a little different for us, you know. We ain't on the Everclear and Kool-Aid like we was on the yard, you know what I'm saying, and getting everybody
Right.
juice. Like, we can't do it no more like we used to. And that's okay. We getting up there, but we're aging gracefully and we're aging with love. And you talked about mindset, we talked about eating. What about your movement? How do you feel about moving your body? Like, did you have any type of like, let me see, did anything sit with you to say, you know what, I enjoy this form of exercise, or moving makes me feel like this? Because I know we did, like, we had our walk for tranquility in October, and that was beautiful, and I thank you for doing that challenge with me too. But what do you feel when it comes to movement?
I have a love-hate relationship with it, honestly. But what I realize, if I'm with doing it with intention, and I realize too that I love to dance. Like, give me a good beat, a hip hop workout video or whatever, and I'm good, because not only am I physically getting the benefits, but I'm creatively having to follow and coordinate with what they're teaching. So it becomes like multifaceted for me. But the walk for tranquility, that was so dope because of the intention, right? You talked about how a challenge motivates people. I had to be very intentional with understanding what I was being challenged with and why I was doing it. So then I would walk outside and I'm paying attention to things because I was present, because of my intention, things that I never really paid attention to in my neighborhood, or, just would walk outside and see different things, hear different things, because sometimes I wouldn't have my earphones in and things like that. And so walking and dancing have been something that second nature, to me, to just feel like if I need to do something, I know that I can do those, and it's not going to be like something that I dread doing, and I'm going to feel motivated to do it, and it's going to make me feel good after, because of the intentionalness, but also with the creativity with the dance workouts.
I feel you on that. And so today I was talking to one of the teachers after they were doing testing. Shout out to Miss Kennedy. She just started following the podcast, so whenever she see this, she'll get a little shout out. But she was talking about because she's around like 55, and when you said dance, you made me think of her. And I've been dancing since before the age of 2, so dance was my first love. And I know it was supposed to be me, but dance was my first love before I needed to know I needed to love myself. But hey, that was the young, and we're getting there.
Right.
And she was just saying how she loves like some of the hip hop dances on her Apple Fitness or whatever it is that she gets to do. And she was telling me about the little person and how they be dancing. And I feel like people don't approach movement in a way of fun and love. They always see it as something that, oh, I just gotta move because the doctor says I gotta move, or oh, I gotta move in order to burn calories, in order to get to this ideal weight or get to this ideal level of mobility. You have to love what you're doing. You have to love how you're moving your body. You have to appreciate the fact that your body can move. Like, there's so much that goes into movement versus just go to the gym, go get in a few miles, or go, dance your life away. Like, there has to be a sense of enjoyment and fulfillment that comes with movement, that also comes with what you put on your plate. You have to enjoy what you eat. And nobody going to eat a whole bunch of food that tastes nasty to them. And the misconception, which I hate, is like that, because I don't know where we got it to, is that there could be good food that's good for you, that is really good for you, that you crave and that you want to go out and get more of because it was so good. Like, you can find those things if you take the time to embrace the journey, to go along with being creative, because you're going to find some things you really don't like, because you found some stuff that you really didn't like. I done found something. You're not going to like every single thing that they say is healthy, just like you don't like everything when you didn't know if it was good or bad for you. Like, I ain't with the okra. I'm just not with the okra. It ain't me. And there's certain tomatoes, I'm not gonna just eat tomatoes. Now, if it's in a spaghetti sauce, okay. If it's in a little salsa, all right. But just straight up tomatoes, don't you put it on no burger, no nothing. If I see the little tomato seed, I gotta throw the lettuce out with it too. Like, it just don't work for me. But some people benefit a lot from tomatoes. What are some of those things, just because we own it, some of those things that you just knew wasn't for you while you were on a journey, and how did it not stop you from continuing on? Because it could be a turn off.
Yeah, the big one is chickpeas. Can't get with it. Don't know what it is. It's a no for me. It's a no for me. I one of the things I've discovered about myself is that it's very hard for me to explore because I don't like wasting time, energy, and all of that. However, what I've done is kind of pay attention to your posts, or things that you presented to me. When we had like the mac and cheese and the slaw and things like that, and I was just like, all right, this is what I like. I can do without the other stuff. You know what I'm saying? But it's the idea of understanding that you can do what the things that you like in a different way. So now I'm not prone to saying I won't try it like I would have been before, because I'm more open-minded to the idea that it has the potential to be good. But you can't just consider that it also has the potential to be bad. You got to consider both.
Agreed. And I thank you. Chickpeas don't sit well with me. I could get with them in certain things, but they don't come out me well. So I just leave them alone. Like, it's just certain experiences you don't want to have. And I don't want to have those types of experiences. But when you said the open-minded part, because there's so many things and so many people I feel like could start seeing some relief and feel a lot better. And I won't say that it will heal them totally of all their ailments, because it takes time to get there. Like you said, don't focus on a destination, enjoy the journey. How do you get someone to explore or create a more open mind, to be readily available to the possibilities of something being different for themselves? How do you create that as the mental health homegirl? How do you try to create that environment to get people to want to create an open mind?
Right. It's exactly what I just said. Most of the time when people are turned off from the idea of something being positive or negative, they're only considering one side. So if I say, okay, I want to lose 50 pounds, but oh my gosh, how long is it going to take me? And what that's going to be, what I got to do to get there? I'm only thinking about the end, and I'm thinking about everything, how hard it's going to be. But I'm not thinking about, well, what if my blood pressure goes down? What if I start to get clearer skin? Or what if my clothes start to fit different? I have to consider both sides of the equation. Most of the time people don't. They only run to one side, which is usually the negative side, which is why they don't make the decisions to progress in a different way, because mentally they're only focused on something negative. Society fixes it that way, right? Society fixes it that way. Even if you think about the price of food. Healthy food is way more expensive than food that's not good for you, right? But when you start to think about, okay, well, would you rather in this moment spend $5 on a head of lettuce and you process it different, you got regular bowels, all of this, or would you potentially have heartburn and irregular bowel movements and a headache and acid reflux from getting a meal from McDonald's? That's not long term, right? We're not thinking about what it could do over time. Even in the moment, what I notice the most is that after I eat, I don't feel disgusted or feel like super full and all of that. I feel like, okay, I fueled my body and it tastes good, but I feel, versus like trying something and then being like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom or whatever. And you be like, is this what I really want to feel like every day? No. So I mean, that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna ever have something that I might not supposed to have, but doing it so much more in a space where I'm thinking about how is this going to help me more than what are the negative impacts or what are those mental blocks that's preventing me from making a better decision.
I like that. And I think what I really enjoyed about that response was the fact that not only are you looking at it from another perspective, you are listing multiple benefits of that other perspective. It's not, oh, what if my blood pressure does go down? No, what if my blood pressure goes down? What if I'm in a better mood? What if I lose the unnecessary weight? What if I'm able to have a better boost in vitality, energy that's moving around? What if the bloat goes away? What if all of the different things? What if I'm able to sleep at night and no longer have nightmares? What if I'm able to breathe better when I move? Like, I love that you said don't just look at the other side of the coin, but list all of the things that can potentially go underneath that, not just one side of what you hope to get out of it, because there's so many different benefits or so many different angles that contribute to that other perspective. So I greatly appreciate that. That's what I love most about that response. I'm gonna ask one more question, then we're gonna get into our last two, and it's about stress, because you talked about that mini stroke and it was about stress. We talked about single moms and having that pressure of providing and showing up and going hard for their kids could be going back down to stress. We talk about people who have unresolved trauma that they don't really want to address. Let's go into stress. We talk about not wanting to process grief and do it in a healthy way to truly understand what it is. Let's go stress. We talk about people not wanting to show up for therapy because they don't really want to see their true selves and really get an idea of who they really are so they can really know how to love themselves just a little bit better. That can go into stress. Tell me, you got PCOS, endometriosis, your body is failing you and you don't feel like yourself. You have to cancel on going different things. You saw me at homecoming. I tried to eat something that wasn't gluten-free and you had me pacing and walking. I couldn't even sit at the table with you because I ate something that I knew I shouldn't have, trying to just taste a little something because they didn't have that many options for me. And I'm walking and I'm rubbing and I'm trying to relax. I'm trying to breathe. That could cause stress when you're unable to show up and be where you want to be and have the fun that you want to have. What are some stress management activities that people can start implementing today when they're starting to feel that stress creep in? Because we know that stress is a killer.
Right. Yeah. First of all, pay attention to where it shows up in your body. A lot of times we have warning signs that we ignore, right? One of the telltale signs of anxiety for sure is stomach pains. When you experience like you got the bubble guts before something, you know, that's a sign of anxiety. So when you start to feel that in your body, you know, you have to be self-aware of, all right, my body is telling me that something is firing off in my brain and I'm starting to become stimulated and stress is starting to happen. So now that you are aware of that, now you can do something. The biggest thing is, again, bringing yourself to the present moment. Look around the room. What can you see? What can you hear? What can you smell? What can you taste? What can you feel? Using your senses to draw you back to, now I'm not thinking about, oh, my stomach hurting and I ate that. Is this going to last for a long time? What happens if somebody see me? Are they going to ask questions and ask me what I'm doing? Right? You start to process real fast all of the other part of things. And it's just like, okay, come back. How can we solve this? What is something that will help in this moment? The other thing is being mindful of where your thoughts are going. Are you automatically going to a negative space? Because again, we've already talked about considering both sides of it. And so even though you may not believe that it could be better or that, you have to at least consider it, right? Eating this is not going to kill me, right? I may have experienced uncomfortableness. I might have some experiences right now, but it can get better, right? So then you're looking at it you're shifting your perspective from the negative to the positive. And then identifying what support do you need when you're stressed? Do you need to talk to somebody to kind of like process what you're feeling? Do you need somebody to validate what you feel? Do you need to just kind of say it? Because sometimes we do need to just be like, you know what, right now I'm just stressed out, and verbalizing it again acknowledges that I feel this way and it's okay that I feel this way, and saying it out loud kind of gets that up out of you. So you're able to again become more present in the moment to focus on, now that I've identified what I feel and why I feel that way, I can figure out a plan. Something that I said in a session the other day, and I say, oh, that was good. I was like, when you think emotionally, about something, you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything, right? So stress brings up emotions. And if you think emotionally, you're not going to go anywhere. But if you take a moment to acknowledge your emotions and think from a logical place, now we can create movement. Now we can create a direction, right? Logic creates direction, emotions don't.
I like it. Come on with the logic.
Yeah.
Creating direction.
Yeah.
Stress keep you in the
Yeah.
same spot, can't go nowhere, can't do anything. I like it. I feel like sometimes, I think one of the biggest ones that I like out of it was like mindful of your thoughts, because you'll start getting into this thought process when you're stressed about all the things that's not working out for you. And you're constantly
Mm-hmm.
keep thinking about it. And I think that's what was happening to me yesterday. And a friend to remind me when I kept saying, I just feel so powerless over this situation or over this situation. And I can't help the way I want to help. And that frustrates me. I feel, I feel powerless. And she was like, but there's so many things that you are powerful about. You have so much power in all these other areas. Why focus on what you feel that you are powerless in? And I was like, oh, okay. That helped, because my thoughts were so into, I want to change this. I want to change this. I want to change this. How can I change this? What can I do? It wasn't, you can do some things. Think about what it is that you can do and operate within that. So I think that's what I love most about that. I automatically agree with you when it comes to identify where stress shows up in your body. Hands down, that is absolutely important. And a lot of times when we start feeling the headaches, when we start feeling the tension in our neck and our shoulders, we think it's, oh, I slept wrong. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I need to move my body more or something like that, not knowing that that's where your body is storing up that tension, that energy that you're not able to release because you're holding on to it and you're not
Right.
finding that those ways to let it go. And I think my biggest thing when it comes to um, releasing tension and noticing where tension is in my body is deep breathing. And I don't know if it's right because I don't have your background, but I love a good 5 and 7. Inhale for 5, hold for 3 seconds, and release for 7. And I could just, the more I do it, I can identify where the tension was and where I'm tight is in my body. And that body awareness allows my thoughts to come with my body and allows me to be still. I absolutely love it. And that's something I've used with my clients, is that they have to set a time, whatever day. It has to be the same time every single day where they have to check in with themselves. And as a part of that check-in, identifying where they are with their goals, who they are, how they're feeling, they have to get in some deep breathing. And that has gotten to a point where my clients have to pull on the side of the road if they're driving at that time and get in their deep breathing and show up for themselves. And I feel like that has just been monumental. And some people don't realize that you go so hard and you do so many things that don't really matter, that you don't take the moments to just be still or just breathe or just acknowledge where in your body stuff is happening, because we operate so much outside of our body.
Mm-hmm.
So that I like that we had that conversation in regards to that and some of the stuff that you dropped when it comes to stress, because stress does kill, and it definitely has a way of being detrimental to your health. All right, so this is for the girl dads. So shout them out, give them a little love. We got some great girl dads, or we got some father figures. Might not even be their biological child. How or what motivation, encouragement, or tips would you give these girl dads as they start to be more part of the conversation when it comes to menstrual health, and just being supportive? Because I feel like so many times we try to separate certain aspects of things that dad shouldn't talk about or not be around, when health is just health. If you
Yeah.
want to talk about your child's headache or her asthma, you should be able to also talk about her menstrual cycle as well, and being a part of that, because it's still all of her. What are some tips that you would give some girl dads as they're out here helping raise girls?
Yeah. Education is key. Right. Education is key. When you educate yourself, you're able to educate your daughter, or that, that girl who's in your life who needs education. I'll never forget my dad telling me once I got my cycle, he was like, you can get pregnant, right? And I was like, Dad, Dad, what? And I don't think that he was meaning it to scare me, but it was like he didn't know what else to say. And that's all he knew how to communicate. And so being in a space where you're offering that space for her to be vulnerable, to talk about if she's scared, to learn about, sanitation products and what happens if she's in school, what does this mean, and all of that. Having that authentic dialogue is going to be key, because if you don't do it, somebody else gonna do it. And is that really what you want to be done? Right? No, absolutely not. Right. And having that empathy and compassion, even though it's not something that you personally experience, but you have to be empathetic and compassionate to the fact that, bro, this happens every month for some people, like every time. And especially because we also see that it's happening at younger ages now. And that's scary. Like you have to be able to navigate the emotional parts that come with it as well. And allowing for that vulnerability and being that support to them is going to make a huge difference in them being able to, one, come talk to you when it happens, to ask questions if they have it, to feel safe to, communicate and have dialogue about it. Otherwise, it happens outside, and then you lose control of what the narrative becomes.
I agree. And I think in addition to that, while you are having the conversation and you're making sure you're creating that space, you're building that relationship to let her know that you're here for her no matter what happens. Right. So that way, in the event that it comes to a point where there's a diagnosis like polycystic ovary syndrome or there is endometriosis, you're now just getting into the conversation to hear about these bigger things that's happening when you could have been a part of it the entire time, to where you're able to help them make educated and informed decisions about their life. And I think the thing about dads for me is that your daughter having this cycle, like your daddy told you, like you can get pregnant. Pretty much that's his legacy though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Whatever kids you have, that's a part of his legacy. Why not be a part of that conversation? Why feel as though that aspect is something you don't talk about until these kids come around? Now you're a granddaddy. You know what I'm saying? Like you should always want to be a part of that conversation and be supportive and know what's really happening and what's going on, because sometimes that it cannot just be a once a month thing. Sometimes your child could be bleeding for 6 weeks and you not know what's happening or what's going on, and you're not even motivated to try to figure it out. And you don't want to put your child's life or their state of health in someone else's hands to figure out and make the decisions for them. You want to be a part and be empowered of that as well. All right, last one. You ready?
I'm ready.
If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you all eat?
Oh my God. Who would I want to eat with?
Any historical figure.
But does it have to be a healthy meal?
No, according to a few episodes,
if I would just, I would want historical figure in any capacity.
It's up to you. My granddaddy, one time I asked my granddaddy and it was me. Another time the historical figure was his wife. It's up to you. Whoever you want your historical figure to be, who is it and what would y'all eat? And be honest.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. So I would want to have a meal with my great grandma, because my girl could throw down in the kitchen. Okay, she could throw down in the kitchen, and I would want her to make some of her homemade bread, like not none of that bread like you get. Like no, you gotta roll it and do the little thing, the sifting and all of that. Yeah, I would want to do that. And then maybe we would integrate some of this healthier stuff that we have now. But I would want some of my grandma biscuits.
So we got biscuits. What else?
Yeah, we would definitely have biscuits. I'm a real big zucchini, squash, and onions person, so I would definitely want to have that, because I would want her to see, how I would incorporate that. We would definitely have some macaroni. I would want baked chicken as opposed to fried, because even though I don't really rock with chicken no more. And we might try. I would probably have her try some of the plant-based meat too. And some sweet potatoes, because those are my favorite.
How you eating with the sweet potatoes? Are you just baking the sweet potatoes? You got some whipped sweet potatoes? What you doing with your sweet potatoes?
So now I've been
See,
boiling
look at that.
them.
See, I knew I needed to ask that. I knew I
Yeah.
needed to ask.
So now I've been boiling them because kind of cutting them up and peeling them like that take too long. So boiling them in water and hitting them with a little bit of a little butter and some agave and cinnamon. Yeah, I'm good.
Girl,
Yeah, that's
that
my new
sounds
thing.
good.
Yeah.
Mine too. I like to put the butter in it. Bake them. I've had a bake before too, and then even the other potatoes when I try to do like a seafood boil and mixing up like with that vegan butter with some good seasonings
Yep.
and stuff and pouring it up. Oh my god, girl, it just hit on a whole nother level. And like I wasn't big on the sweet potatoes, but they have so much nutritional value versus the other
Right.
ones. I was like, okay, let me get into it a little bit more. But that vegan butter with them sweet potatoes, and you just told me to put some agave on it with the cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to do a little, maybe some red salt. Oh my god, a little red salt on it because I'm a sweet
Oh,
salty
I'm gonna
type
have
of
to try
girl.
that.
Girl, I think that's what I would do, and I'm gonna need to try the boiling because I'm with you on the peeling and all of that other stuff. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. It's
I got you.
fast too.
And I
And
like
they
it. I
and
don't
they
like
come
being
out
in the
real
kitchen
nice.
long. I
No,
don't like
yeah,
being
it
in the kitchen
that
long.
don't take long. That don't take long at all.
That's good. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the Empire Plates, Empire Lives podcast. Thank you for vibing with me. But let everybody know where they can find you, what you got offering right now, all that good stuff. Talk to them, mental health homegirl.
Yeah, so you can connect with me on Instagram and Facebook, Beyond the White Couch. You can, my website is beyondthewhitecouch.com. Check out some of the culture teas that's listed on there. I do have a journal that's out right now. It's featuring my old cover on my other book, but it's called Healing Inner Me, but it does have some journal prompts in there. But I'm working on a new book called Healing Season, and I'm super excited about that because Cheers to Him was more so like tapping into like the personal side of relationships and all of that, but this taps into like my growth and my journey and how I've navigate that, kind of combining faith, culture, and mental health all together. So I'm super excited about that. So definitely follow with me, connect with me. I'm not one of those people that you can't just inbox and be like, girl, I heard you on the, yeah, reach out, DM me. Let's connect and talk. When I tell you that it's homegirl vibes, it's really like I'm hit my homegirl up. We gonna chop it up a little bit. And if you're in South Carolina and you're looking for a therapist, I got you. And I'm also about to eventually this year launch a coaching program too. So I'm excited about that as well.
It's gonna be dope. It's so beautiful. I think a lot of times you see a lot of coaching programs out there, but just making it your own and being able to see people make the transformations it's just it's I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it's just beautiful that you could be someone to support them while they're in this journey. And you're already doing it
Right.
on the Beyond the White Couch and really making trauma just an everyday thing to talk about, to really allow people to like break the stereotypes and really get to who they are. So I'm just glad that you're going to embark on that coaching journey. So yeah. Well, y'all, it's been another episode of the Empire Plates, Empire Lives podcast. Again, I am your host, Giovanni, the healthy habits and lifestyle coach. I love seeing people embrace new healthy habits and lifestyle changes. And remember, she said it's a journey. It is. You're not going to change your whole life and make a whole bunch of changes and be consistent and intentional with them all by doing them all at one time. You want to take it step by step and really just love yourself through it out and really figure out what it is that you want to tap into. And it's all about you. So I got my M to the third degree formula because it's been working for me to stay vibrant and to help heal myself and minimize my symptoms. But get you a free guide in the description of this video of plant-based alternatives and start trying something different. Like just start swapping out some of your favorite stuff to get something of high nutritional value. Make sure you connect with us. All the links are down below. And just keep vibing with us because we just real people doing real things and got real love for wanting to help you. So we here for the people, but most importantly, we're here for ourselves. And we know that what we're going through can be a testament that you can do and overcome hard things too. So until the next episode, y'all, we'll be back. But be loved, be light. Most importantly, be well. Thanks for vibing with us.
Peace.